Saint Rita of Cascia is one of the most beloved saints of the Catholic Church, often called the Saint of the Impossible. Her life was marked by suffering, forgiveness, and deep union with Christ. Among the many remarkable events of her life, one stands out as both mysterious and deeply moving. The moment when she received a wound on her forehead, a thorn that bled until the day of her death. This sign became the greatest mark of her mystical union with the suffering of Jesus. Rita was born in 1381 in the small town of Roccaperina, Italy. From an early age, she showed a great devotion to prayer and a desire to dedicate her life to God. Yet her life did not follow the simple path she imagined. Out of obedience to her parents, she married a man who was violent and unfaithful. Rita endured years of mistreatment with patience, responding with kindness and prayer. Eventually, her husband was killed in a feud, and soon after her 2 sons died as well. Rita, who had suffered so much, chose to forgive and dedicate herself entirely to God. She entered the Augustinian convent in Cascia, where she lived in prayer, penance, and service. But the greatest transformation of her life was still to come. One day, as she meditated deeply on the Passion of Christ, Rita prayed with tears that she could share in his suffering, even in a small way. She asked Jesus to let her participate in his crown of thorns. According to her sisters in the convent, her prayer was answered in a mysterious and visible way. Suddenly, a sharp thorn detached from the crown of Christ in a vision and struck her forehead. From that moment, Rita bore a wound in the middle of her forehead, as if a thorn had pierced her flesh. This wound was not symbolic. It was real, painful, and bled continuously for the rest of her life, nearly 15 years. The wound gave off a strong odor that made it difficult for others to be near her, and yet Rita endured it with humility, considering it a gift from God. She accepted the suffering not as a burden, but as a union with the passion of Jesus. Because of this wound, Rita became a living witness of the mystery of the cross. The sisters in the convent were astonished by her patience and joy despite the pain. Pilgrims began to hear about the nun in Cascia who carried a thorn of Christ on her forehead, and devotion to her holiness grew. The wound marked her body, but it also revealed her soul, a woman completely united to the love of God through sacrifice. In the last years of her life, Rita became bedridden, carrying not only the wound, but also many illnesses. Even in weakness, she never stopped praying. Near the end, she received what many consider another miracle. When a relative visited her during winter, Rita asked for a rose from the garden of her childhood home. The relative thought it was impossible since it was January, covered in snow. But when she went to the garden, she found a single blooming rose. She brought it to Rita, who smiled with gratitude, recognizing it as a sign of God's love. That is why Saint Rita is often depicted with roses alongside her thorn. Rita died in 1457 with the thorn still on her forehead. After her death, something extraordinary happened. Her wound, which had given off an odor for so long, now emitted a sweet fragrance, and her body remained incorrupt, a sign that God had glorified her suffering. Her body is still preserved today in Cascia, attracting pilgrims from all over the world who seek her intercession in desperate situations. The story of the thorn in Saint Rita's forehead is more than a miracle. It is a message. It teaches us that suffering can be transformed into love when united with Christ. Rita did not run from the cross. She embraced it, and in doing so, she found peace and holiness. For those who feel crushed by impossible situations, Rita's example shows that God can turn pain into grace, wounds into blessings, and despair into hope. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. And do not forget to subscribe to this channel, leave your like, and activate the notification bell so you do not miss the next stories of saints and miracles that continue to inspire us in our journey of faith.